coal plants.
No, they're using natural gas and they're restarting some of the nuclear power plants. Different countries are taking different approaches to climate change. I'm not arguing who's good or bad, but many countries, including China, Japan probably, a little less clear, are incorporating climate change considerations into their decisions about what kind of electric power plants to run, what kind of electric power plants to build. Now, there are a lot of other important emissions. So CO2 is its own kind of controversial factor. Since about 1970, in the US, decisions about electricity have been influenced by other kinds of emissions. SOx, NOx, particulates, mercury, there are others as well. I just showed one here as an example. If I burn coal, I'm going to get a lot more emissions of sulfur oxides per kilowatt hour than if I burn natural gas. If I looked at data for NOx and particulates, you'd see a similar pattern.
Even with SOx and NOx cleanup having been added?
This number is an average for US power plants. If you build a new plant, a new coal plant, like the Comanche 3, it's going to be lower. So you can reduce those numbers for coal plants.
Right.
It's expensive and controversial. And if you do that, you would clearly be, at current prices, it's going to cost you more to make that electricity. So existing coal plants have higher emissions than natural gas coal plants, than natural gas power plants. New coal plants are cleaner, but it's still a struggle to get the emissions down for coal burning power plants. It's been happening. The Craig Station recently spent hundreds of millions of dollars on cleanup. And technology to clean up emissions from coal plants continues to improve. But coal plants really struggle to get their emissions down to the level of natural gas for most of them, with the exception of NOx. So since 1970, coal plants have been working to clean up their emissions, but they still struggle to get down where a natural gas plant is today. Possible, maybe, but it's expensive. And why is that relevant? Because most coal plants in the US were built about 1970 and 1990. So this is a little messy, let me explain what's going on. The height of the bar is how many plants of that fuel were built in that year. Most coal plants in the US were built 70s to 90s. They're getting old. One way to think about coal burning power plants is the Crown Vic. You know what Crown Vic is? Okay, some of you do. Crown Vic is a short term for Crown Victoria, which was the ubiquitous police car. And they were very popular for years. Why? Reliable. There were a lot of them. You could easily get parts. People were familiar with the technology. They would run forever. They were a great technology. But it was harder for them to accommodate a world where the focus was on, for example, having higher fuel economy or being all-wheel drive. Coal plants are reliable. They're well understood. They have high capacity factors, which means they run most of the time. They don't break down. But a lot of the coal plants were built in this time period, and they're getting pretty old. If you built a coal plant in 1980, 37 years old, you're probably facing some serious decisions about repair, significant expense. So I'm trying to get at here is you think about those making decisions in the electricity industry. They've got an old coal plant, been running great for years. Needs significant investment. Do you invest that money, or do you say, you know, I can buy a natural gas plant. It's going to cost less to buy the new coal burning power plant. It's going to have lower emissions. The fuel costs, yeah, they're higher than for coal, but not a lot. If CO2 related regulations do occur in the US, then I'm going to be in a better position for natural gas. So what I'm trying to give some insight into how and why these decisions are made. It's not the case that a big utility like Xcel says, coal too expensive, natural gas cheap. It's years of analysis and running models and having meetings and trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. But the fact that natural gas has lower emissions and is in a better position to, let me rephrase that. From a business perspective, there's a risk of future regulation related to carbon dioxide. And if you think about that risk and the decision you're going to make today, all else equal, you're going to tilt towards natural gas because it's a way to offset that risk. And notice, this is not something new. We've been building a lot of natural gas since 2000. You can notice what's also kind of fun. little bit of nuclear growth there from 71 to 1990. We're not building new nuclear either. So the point I want to try to make with this graph is our coal plants are mostly old. It's an old fleet. A lot of them are going to require significant investment. And when you're making a business decision, do you want to make that investment or do you want to build a new natural gas plant? I think you might start to see why some utilities are starting to tilt towards natural gas. And the natural gas technology is improving in a way that the coal technology is not. So this gets a little bit into mechanical engineering. What this shows is how much energy you need to burn in the form of fuel to get a unit of electricity out. And natural gas technology is getting a little better and better and better every year. And as the line goes down, what that means is you can put less natural gas into it to get a kilowatt hour out. Does that make sense? So the coal plant technology is a little bit what I would call mature. It's like the Crown Vic. It's not clear we can push it any farther. But natural gas, we're not seeing that. Those what are called aeroderivative turbines, GE and other manufacturers continue to tweak them, continue to make them better. Okay, so what else fits into the story of why coal seems to be dropping so quickly? There's the whole renewables piece, and that's part of the story. And as many of you know, this is solar photovoltaic cells. The cost continues to drop dramatically. This is the latest data that just came out a couple days ago. And you can see the cost curves. So for large plants, that's all the way to your right, have gone from $8, rough numbers per kilowatt installed in 2006, down to just over $2. It's still more expensive than natural gas. It's still more expensive than coal, but if this kind of continues, we're going to be crossing that line pretty soon. Another example is wind. Same story as solar photovoltaic. Keeps getting less expensive. It's not quite true. It got more expensive in this time period because there was huge profits by the wind manufacturers. When I saw this data, I called a friend who worked for an unnamed large wind manufacturer, and I said, Sam, his name was Sam. I said, Sam, what was going on there? And he said, demand exceeded supply. We were raking it in. But it's more competitive now. So if you see from the cost curves, these are actual signed contracts. Wind is getting cheap. The average of signed contracts in 2017, I only want to ignore that data point. 2016, $20 per megawatt hour, 2.1 cents per kilowatt hour. That's what the contracts for wind are doing. That's cheaper than you can do natural gas or coal. You can't quite compare them one-to-one, but wind can, just on a kilowatt hour basis, undercut both coal and natural gas.
Would you speak for just a minute to the intermittency of renewables?
Yes, so you can, as I said a minute ago, you can't really compare the prices directly because some power plants, natural gas is the best at this, are what are called dispatchable. So if I run an electricity system, I've got to meet demand regardless. It goes up, goes down. People don't want to hear from their electric company that, well, we ran out or it cost too much. You expect electricity when it's available. A natural gas plant is called dispatchable. I can turn it up or turn it down to meet demand. Wind is not really dispatchable. You can turn it down, but you can't turn it up. So a kilowatt hour from wind is in some ways less valuable than one from natural gas. It's not as highly valued on the market. Most recent data shows that electricity systems can run with up to 30% wind without serious challenges. Beyond that, we haven't done that yet. Yep.
What about the hybrid plants that use things like geothermal or molten salt or something to have kind of a daily power generation capacity?
So concentrating solar power with molten salt is somewhat dispatchable because you essentially have storage in the form of molten salt. So that can be a more valuable. They get higher prices for their electricity because they are somewhat dispatchable. Dispatchability is not really yes or no. It's a question of degree.
Isn't there one in Fallon, Nevada, near Reno, that's some kind of a hybrid solar and geothermal?
I don't know about that. There are CSP plants in Nevada concentrating solar power with molten salt with head storage. I haven't heard about a geothermal combination. That sounds like a pretty cool idea. So to step back a little bit.
Question
Yeah, question.
about cost. Does that take into account government subsidies?
This reflects or incorporates or includes subsidies.
Okay,
And
so
there's
the
a significant
subsidies
subsidy.
were taken away, were not in there, the prices would be higher?
Yes, definitely would. And what appears to be happening, let me rephrase that. As I said, coal plants aren't showing improved energy, aren't showing an improved heat rate. They don't appear to be getting better in that sense. Natural gas appears to have some technology improvements still able to be wrung out of it. Wind and solar appear to have a lot of that. So this was a study from Lawrence Berkeley National Labs. They went to experts in wind technology and said, can we do better? And the unanimous view was yes. It's a little bit complicated, but the top graph there shows that by 2030, we could cut wind costs by a quarter because we're going to get better at doing wind. Remember that wind and solar are new technologies in the sense of the utility scale, right? We have had solar photovoltaic panels for space and probably military for 30, 40 years, but only in the last 5 or 10 years have they become high production common items. So they're still climbing the technology curve. And it's almost certain that wind and solar will continue to get significantly less expensive as more R&D money is invested in them. So you kind of see why that's important, right? We've got coal here, we've got wind and solar. If you start to think ahead a little bit, you can see where there's a looming further threat, certainly to coal. I don't think we're there yet. Wind, arguable. Solar, not quite, but soon. So this has been all bad news, pretty much, for coal folks. There's a few bright spots. There's still places we can use, but they're not that bright, in my opinion. Exports. So I've talked about why in the U.S. the electricity industry is moving away from coal. But if I was in the coal industry, I'd say, well, how about the rest of the world? Some countries are still pretty not moving away from coal still. And it's true, this somewhat messy chart shows the flow of coal trade around the world. And the width of the bar is the magnitude. So you can see Indonesia exports a lot of coal. Australia exports a lot of coal. China imports a fair bit of coal. So as I said, China is the world's largest coal consumer. They produce a lot and they import a lot. The U.S. has not been very successful at coal exports in a comparative sense. We do export a fair bit of coal to Europe, including the Netherlands. A few years ago, one of the Colorado coal mines had a long-term contract with a Dutch utility. I'm not sure it's still in place. But it's tough. A lot of the international trade is for what's called metallurgical coal, which is very high-grade coal for making steel. We don't have a lot of that. We're far away from the coal markets. It's going to be tough for us, U.S. coal, to compete with, say, Indonesian coal for China, because we're just far away from China. That said, U.S. coal exports do appear to be on the rebound to some degree. Some in the coal industry think this is where the future lies. We'll see. You can see coal exports. So again, to clarify, that's coal that we get out of the ground in the U.S. and sell to other countries. Came down from 2013 to 2016 and then started to climb after that. Where's it going to go next? I don't know. It's hard for me to see the U.S. coal overcoming just the sheer distance. You know, you can't cure a distance problem with technology, really. It's just hard to move coal, and moving a long way is expensive. Okay, I want to move to the last point, last discussion about the future, where things are going to go. I'll preface this by quoting a famous physicist. So anytime you talk about the future, you're probably going to be wrong, because you're going to miss the disruptions, the unexpected things that we didn't know that was going to happen and happen. That said, it's useful to look at projections. This one, like most of them, assumes nothing interesting happens. No dramatic policy change, no natural disasters, no crazy election results no one expected. We'll get some of that, but assuming we don't, here's how they see the future of coal. Coal production, this is historical. They see a slight rebound in the next couple of years. And then we get to this question, and then they show either it's going to be pretty much flat or decreasing. And that pattern is shown for the Western US as well. What are these two lines? This is the policy sensitivity. As you may know, the Obama administration proposed and started to implement something called the Clean Power Plan, which would essentially regulatorily address carbon CO2 emissions. The current administration has chosen not to follow that plan. They can't just undo it because it's a long process, but they're in the process of replacing the Clean Power Plan with a kind of much more voluntary, less aggressive approach. So in my opinion, we're in the no Clean Power Plan world right now. Slightly argumentative, that's right. So again, so that would make this line the appropriate. That makes sense? So again, by this objective government forecast, they don't have a stake. These guys don't. They don't have an agenda. Doesn't mean they're right, but they're not pushing something. It's likely that coal will do a rebound to 2020 and then just kind of be flat. And that's what we see from the US and start to tail off afterwards. Now it depends, right? If natural gas prices go down, it's going to be less good for coal. If natural gas prices go up. But this seems to be a reasonable kind of middle of the ground forecast. Okay, so that's what they think. What do I think? I'll preface this by saying, you probably heard about free advice is worth what you pay for it. I'm giving you free predictions. Good, bad? I don't know, we'll see. This one I'm sure about. Wind and solar PV will continue to get less expensive. As we get better and better at extracting improvements, as we climb that technology curve, as hundreds of millions of dollars, probably billions, are being invested worldwide in R&D related to wind and solar PV, we're already seeing very dramatic price reductions. Can't imagine a scenario in which that's not going to continue. U.S. electricity demand for the last 8 years, electricity use or demand in the U.S. has been flat. We've got more people, we've got more bigger buildings, more people want air conditioning, more things that everybody plugs in the wall, but yet our electricity demand is flat. That's largely due to improved technology. Have we run all those savings out? Not sure yet. As more and more people buy electric vehicles, at some point they're going to be a significant electricity consumer, but I think that's 15 to 20 years out because we have this fleet of internal combustion engines. Even if we all bought new electric vehicles, our old cars are going to have somebody else and they're going to drive them. So it's going to take a while for the electric vehicle issue to be significant. This is already happening, though there's a lot of public debate about climate change. I'm sure some of you have strong feelings about that. What cities, and to some degree states, are actually doing is adaptation, particularly in states that are exposed to, for example, increased sea level or more volatility or more storms. Money is flowing into reducing vulnerability due to, for example, storms. This is what's actually happening. Yeah, there'll probably be continued arguments about the mitigation side, which is, for example, how much CO2 we should emit. But what's actually happening, and there'll be more recognition of this, is the adaptation side. Natural gas prices will almost certainly drift upwards slowly because the U.S. is building.
Export terminals.
Yeah, so it's a little complicated here. So in the U.S., natural gas, we'll call it $3. In Japan, it's about $11. So why don't we take our natural gas and sell it there? Well, we are starting to do that to South Korea as well. Turns out you have to liquefy it because you can't move natural gas. It just doesn't work. So you turn it into something called liquefied natural gas. That's expensive and complicated. The U.S. is building capacity to do that in Louisiana and Texas. And as we get connected to world markets for natural gas, we're going to see our prices start to go up. But it's going to take a while. And all these things add up to this. I just don't see it. Again, I'm not arguing for or against coal. I am taking what I think is a pretty objective kind of technology and business approach. But I see a lot of competing technologies, and the market seems to prefer them. But it is an emotional issue. Most people say coal, and they think that's what you get your stock moving in that. Other people see it as powering the world. Other people see it as an amazing rock. A lot of different perspectives on this. So let me close with some questions that I don't know the answer to. I have opinions, but I really would like to hear your opinions on some of these issues, or perhaps other ones that I brought up along the way. So with that, I'm going to stop. Do you want to
Yeah, let's
elaborate a bit?
do you want to do, let's do 15 minutes of question and answer?
I'm fine. Well,
Okay, and then we can,
And I'll take questions, but if you want to throw things out for general discussion, that's fine too. I'll start in the back randomly and listen.
Thank you.
I'll get you.
I appreciate your talk. Could you just touch on the employment piece? You know, and
Employment?
the employment piece when it comes to the different types of energy.
Yeah.
The coal, the wind, the renewables, and where those are headed as a layer over what you presented.
Just to go by employment, like people working in those
Yeah.
industries? Yeah, so it's messy because first of all, there are a lot of numbers out there about employment in industry. I don't think a lot of them are credible. I'm not pointing fingers at the industry. They tend to be exaggerated. Any industry, any form of energy has environmental impacts. Wind turbines, coal emits CO2, wind turbines kill birds. Any type of energy conversion process employs people. As technologies mature, those employment numbers generally go down. So the wind industry is getting more and more automated, and they are employing fewer people. So it's hard to compare. Clearly, if we move away from coal and towards, say, natural gas or wind, coal people working the coal coal employment numbers will go down and natural gas numbers will go up. The so-called employment intensity, how many people they employ per megawatt capacity, I don't find those numbers credible because they change all the time. So I think I gave a slightly evasive answer. Clearly what's happening in coal is not good if you work in the coal industry, but it is good if you work in wind and solar. So, technology change has winners and losers.
Right. Well, what I'm really interested in a coal standpoint is how much is the loss of coal jobs from being more efficient, pulling coal out of the ground with fewer employees.
Yeah, so if you look at the coal industry data of what they call productivity, say tons per miner a year, it's gone way up over the last year. They're getting better and better at it. That's a loaded term. They're getting more and more efficient. It's partly a safety reason, right? They want people out of the mine because if you're not in the mine, there's safety concerns in mining, and the way that's dealt with in part is by automation. So the coal industry has gotten a lot more efficient at or substitute technology for people. All industries tend to do that. I think particularly in relatively high labor places like Western Europe or the U.S. China, you see a different pattern. There it's much more employment intensive. A lot more people work per ton produced in China than in the U.S. But we're largely automated. The longwall is a great example for those of you who know about mining technology. Yep. I'm sorry, did your question get answered?
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
I have been to the Bridger Power Plant, and I understand that the 3 generators they have there, part of what they're going to do is convert them to natural gas. So when you put up those articles that talk about a plant closing, quote unquote, how many of them are actually closing as opposed to converting?
Yeah, so the proposal at Jim Bridger is, last I checked, there were 4 units all burning coal. Yeah, and they proposed, Idaho Power, I think 2029 to shut down 2 of them. Now, are they going to convert those coal to natural gas? I don't know. That happened. You're definitely right. I mean, I agree. There's a coal burning power plant out in Boulder, Colorado. How's that for unexpected? Right? Coal to Valmont plant. That plant closed in March of this year, but what they did is they converted it to natural gas. That's a better term. By close, I should clarify, I mean no longer burn coal, they'd probably burn something else. You've got the infrastructure, you've got the substation. If you can find a natural gas pipeline nearby, it often makes sense to convert.
And related to the employment, of course, too, because you still employ people in power.
Yeah, I'm not sure about if the numbers go up or down. I'm not sure about that. Chuck, anything?
A couple of things.
Okay.
I'd like to disabuse you of your assertion about the impact of anthropogenic activity on some sort of climate change. It's just not true. It's a political thing. It's not a scientific thing. But let me go on.
Wait, no, I'm not letting that go.
Hey, this will take an hour.
Come on. We're gonna. Let me see if I can say something Chuck will agree on. He and I disagree on this. But I'll just say that 99.9% of scientists who understand and look at this issue agree about this. You can find some that don't. I don't agree with them. So there's disagreement about this issue, but not very much.
You're talking about anthropogenic.
Yep.
That was an aside, and we could go all day. But here, I'd like to take a shot at your questions up here. On question number one, where do I think the coal industry is going? You hit it right on the head. It is a policy thing. The Obama policy with the Clean Power Plan, knocked it down, knocked coal production and utilization for electric generation down. Trump is going to level it out. And okay, so I kind of think that's where we're going. I do also see a potential of a slight increase due to export and due to the fact that possibly there will be more coal units built. What is the government public policy responsibility for the coal industry? I'll tell you this, and here's the basis for this very quickly. Your chart, your triangle chart, whether it included Beluga or not, and Beluga in Alaska is a mammoth field. I used to use the term 250 years of energy capability from coal to produce electricity. You made it much greater than that. Thank you, I appreciate that. It is absolutely insane for this country to make policy that eliminates coal from our power base because of the fact that we have that much energy, that much potential out there. The one thing, I do natural gas, that's kind of one of the things I do. To assume, and number three, okay, this was on your other chart. Natural gas prices, anybody who thinks that natural gas prices are going to stay where they are right now is fooling themselves. Cheniere has 7 liquefied natural gas plants right now that are exporting to Europe. As you said, it's about 4 times the price over there. The arbitrage is such that people are going to be liquefying it over here. There are more of these trains coming on. Natural gas will increase in price, and that will make natural gas potentially less competitive with coal. And should we keep burning and make electricity? You bet we should. We should mandate by government fiat a minimum amount of electricity generated by coal so that those plants don't get torn down and that we forget coal forever. Somebody back there asked about what happened. Duke Power and Southern Company imploded, dynamited 11 coal plants in the southeast. 11. The reason they did was that they were old, but they're going to be replaced with natural gas. Many people in here, maybe you, are so wealthy that they don't care about electric prices. We have to have a basis of coal to ensure that we use this vast quantity of coal that we have. The vast quantity, this is the end of it. The vast quantity of coal that we have, it helps mitigate the price.
I appreciate it. I just would encourage you and everyone else not to make this a personal fight, and saying I don't care about electricity prices is just not really appropriate for me.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Chuck. Next.
On your pyramid showing how much coal.
No answer.
You have the word economically recoverable. As you try to get into that 4,000 X
let's go back
tons
to that
of
chart.
coal, are those just as easy to recover at the top economically as at the bottom? And I mean economically, I mean, if you put X number of energy in something, you expect to get more than X energy out.
Yeah.
But if it's not economically recoverable, you put more energy in towards the bottom part, which is more difficult. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so clearly, again, as you move down here, the numbers get bigger. We're talking about stuff that's deeper. We're not sure it's there. It may not exist. It's going to be expensive to get out. Generally, the cost of extraction will go down here, and the energy required to extract is going to go down. But I'm arguing it doesn't really matter. Is it 4,000 years of coal or 250 years of coal? I'm not sure it makes that much of a difference. So, this stuff, probably expensive, not sure it's there. This stuff, we don't really know. But either way, it's going to be the same point. We have hundreds or thousands of years of coal left. The discussion ought to be, do we want to use it?
Right.
And we could argue endlessly, is it 250 or 2,500? I'm not sure it really matters. But clearly, there's an energy cost of extraction for stuff, and it doesn't make any kind of sense to spend 500 kilowatt hours getting 300 kilowatt hours of coal out of the ground. But we don't do that because the market really addresses that unless there's a major market failure. Yep, please.
A lot of small towns, especially in the western United States, are energy extractive economies. They depend on oil and gas and coal. And a lot of small towns are very afraid of another Obama-like administration coming in and passing a Clean Power Act. They're afraid that, like Hillary Clinton, I'm going to make so many permit requirements for you to drill a well that you will never drill another well, and you will never hydraulically fracture anything ever again. And second of all, they're intimidated by potential future CO2 regulations that will make running of a coal-fired power generation plant economically unfeasible. So what is the best course for towns like Craig? How should they think about the future? What consultants should they have come to talk to them so they can figure out how to negotiate? I mean, you know, we're fine now under Trump, but what happens when the Democrats take over again? Is Craig going to be a ghost town? Should banks loan money in Craig to people who want to buy houses? Well, in other
So
words,
a
this
lot of
ties
these
to
trends
economics.
are not,
Ties to real
there's some
economics.
policy sensitivity here, but it's not huge. The overall trends I've talked about, where natural gas is preferred for some reasons, because, for some reasons I talked about, because the prices are low and seen as stable, right or wrong, because existing regulations that have been in place in the Clean Air
But
Act.
Hillary Clinton said she didn't
since
want any more
1970.
gas wells
Right.
drilled.
Right.
Say again?
Hillary Clinton said, I do not want any more wells drilled in the United States.
Well, I'm not sure, I'm not Hillary Clinton, so I feel like you're accusing me of something.
He's right. She said,
We're trying to figure out how to negotiate the scientific and the political environment.
A lot of these are market factors. Wind and solar PV will continue to get less expensive over time. That's not really something any of us are able to influence. I think it makes sense to recognize the market realities. Utilities are moving to natural gas for all the reasons I talked about. That's a market reality. I think we can sit here and blame different political figures, but you know what I've tried to present here is some data on global trends and prices and market reality. You know, Excel's not evil. Excel's not Democrat or Republican. They're looking at meeting their customers' needs at lowest cost. And their decision has been things I talked about, shutting down Comanche 30. Yep.
Yeah, I have a bit of a different question. You showed a flat demand in electricity and power for the last few years.
Yeah, since about
And
2008.
I think that's really an important factor. And my question is, do we have a lot? It seems to me that we have not done a very good job at energy conservation and efficient energy use. And in fact, I've seen figures that say, you know, we could easily reduce our energy use by maybe 25% through various means of green building, having more insulation, various means. And I'm just wondering what you might.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
And that impacts on demand and production of energy.
Energy efficiency in the U.S. is improving. As I mentioned, we have more cars, more people, more buildings, more use of air conditioning. Yet electricity demand has stayed flat since about 2008. Why is that? Because we're doing better in a technological sense. But most of the analysis I've seen show that we're not doing all we can. That there's a lot of untapped potential, and we could increase energy efficiency by maybe 25%, maybe by 33% in a cost-effective way. Right? It doesn't make sense to put R100 in your ceiling. We can throw away the things that don't make any economic sense. But building technology is improving, appliance technology is improving. I don't think those technologies, I don't think we've wrung out all the potential efficiency improvements yet. Great example is LED lighting. Do I believe these are LED? I think you all know what LED. You've seen LEDs. They are about 80% less electricity use than an old-fashioned incandescent. They used to be really expensive. Now LEDs are about $1. LEDs are starting to implement what's after LEDs. I don't know, we're just doing something equivalently amazing. So I agree, we have a lot of potential for improved efficiency in the future.
Can you speak to Governor Hickenlooper's executive order at all in terms of his energy reduction goals?
Yeah, so Governor Hickenlooper has an executive order that sets goals for CO2 reductions at the state as well. They're not, I would characterize them as goals. They don't have a lot of legislative teeth. They are ambitions. My opinion is through efficiency improvements, we could get most of that done at a positive net present value. By building better buildings, by putting in better appliances, by switching over to LEDs, I think we could get a large way towards that carbon reduction goal. Furthermore, because of the trends, which I think are largely market trends that I talked about, the Colorado electricity industry is showing decreased carbon intensity because there's less coal and more natural gas going on.
Hickenlooper's plant is a layover of the clean power plant.
Thanks, Chuck. We'll give some of the folks a chance, sorry. Yep.
The question, electricity use is flat since 2008, correct?
Sorry?
The electricity use in the US is flat since 2008.
Roughly, yeah, roughly. It goes up and down by year, but it's been pretty flat.
What does natural gas look like in that same time period?
Increasing consumption of natural gas, no question. Well, I mean, you all know about the fracking revolution, where now we can get a lot of natural gas out of the ground we couldn't get at before. So U.S. natural gas production and consumption are continuing to increase by year.
What kind of chart does that look like?
And how steep would the graph? I don't know. It's definitely going up.
And what about natural gas?
I can show the natural gas electricity numbers.
Natural gas reserves, like how many years with natural gas left?
So here's U.S. electricity, not total fuels, but you can see natural gas going up. Natural gas reserve is a tough one because of the fracking. We keep on getting better at getting natural gas out of the ground. We keep on finding shale deposits that we might have thought were there, but we couldn't get at it, but now we have directional drilling and fracking. So what's called the reserves production ratios, which is if we keep constant how much natural gas we use, we don't find any more. BP just came out with those numbers. I'm going to guess the U.S. is probably about 50 years. I'm going to guess, we have to look it up. So, with oil and natural gas, you could, it might make sense to think about how much we have and when is it going to get really expensive. But, as I think we all agree here, there's lots of coal left. It's a separate kind of debate. Yeah.
It seems to me that what you're saying is the power companies keep voting with their decisions. I mean, it's a market-based decision, and they keep voting for natural gas. When they have to replace all of these plants that were made in the 70s.
Yeah.
My question is this. You argue for there's greater efficiencies available in natural gas companies.
Yeah.
Clearly, it's less expensive to meet pollution goals, CO2 goals, and natural gas, SOx, NOx, whatever.
Right.
How much, would you venture a guess, how much when a utility sits down and says, I got to replace these 1970s vintage plants, how much of that decision is climate change based, or how much of it is just straight market?
So that's,
or can you even make that?
yeah, that's such a great question. I mean, that's kind of the central question, right? So the way I understand the question is, Xcel announced this decision to close 2 of the Comanche 3 units. How much of that decision was made by their concern, or I would put in their view, their concern over risk of future climate change regulation? I don't know. That's a hard thing to qualify, right? This is not, I mean, they reveal their decision. They don't reveal all the intricate meetings and arguments and debates they have. My opinion, and submit it for your rejection, is 10%. It matters because it's a risk for the future, a purely business risk. They might say, hey, depending on how the election goes, we may be facing carbon-related regulation at some point in the future. We should, and I agree, they should think about that, right? As a business decision, that's a responsible thing to do. How they value that risk, how important it is in their mind, I don't know. It's a great question. I don't know the answer. Do you have any thoughts?
Paul, I think part of that decision is based on their stockholders. Stockholders are telling the CEO, we want more green power.
Some stockholders are. Some are saying, I want my dividend. That's all I care about. There's a variety of voices, and clearly some of their customers and stockholders are saying, we want you to be environmentally important, environmentally responsible company that's a partner. Others are saying, I want my dividend. That's all I care about. There's a lot of diversity.
And the cost of to build a new coal-fired power plant, just a wag here, but it's probably 4 times, maybe even more than a gas plant for the same megawatts.
Right. That's right.
And it takes less
Simple-
people to run that gas plant than it does a coal plant.
Yeah, the numbers are right. A new natural gas power plant, roughly $1,000 a kilowatt. New coal, depending on emissions, because that's an important part of it, depending on how much emissions control you put on it, $4,000 to $5,000. Longer lead time too. But lower fuel costs, so it's a complex system. That said, nobody in the U.S. is building coal. We're shutting down coal plants in the U.S. We're not building new coal plants in the U.S. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm saying that's the facts of what's happening. Yep, I'm back.
I'd like to maybe change the subject possibly, transition.
Yep.
In terms of, we had the horse and buggy, then we had the gasoline machine, then we had Kodak with silver-based, no good digital.
Yep.
And so technology is always messing with our economy. And while, and this is not a negative, the coal jobs are not a big number of jobs on the economy here, they're still very important to me and to the communities that live in. So a number of bills have been passed in Congress to start the transition, to provide money so that these local businesses, these local towns aren't screwed by the transition of technology.
Yep.
And that has been cut back because we don't want to spend too much money on it.
Yeah.
But it seems like we need to spend more money on that. And it's called a subsidy, but I don't care. Oil and gas has been subsidized, getting started and everything else. So that we do the transition. So people don't bang heads, environmentalists versus coal folks, so that we can do this transition that's going to happen. And we may argue about that, but that's a real important aspect because we're not just talking about the economy, we're talking about people's lives and their societies and their culture. So it seems like for $1 billion, we could throw $1 billion at this and maybe make America a little more purple than just red or black. So what is your experience
That's
with
the question here.
Heard,
I mean,
what you see done?
Yeah, if you look at the data, and employment in the coal industry is going down, coal production has gone down. Now, the forecasts show it bumping up and staying flat, but if I could rephrase what you're saying, the government does have a responsibility for the coal industry. That it is appropriate for the government to intervene in that market and find new jobs or provide retraining or take action to reduce the economic pain of this transition.
I think we all agree upon that, can't we? Yeah. Chuck?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I do want to say one more time, so one
One
comment,
comment?
then one more question, then we're gonna, Paul will be here for a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then we want Susie to be able to have a chance to talk about energy efficiency.
I've got one comment,
Sure.
and one word after that comment. The wind doesn't blow all the time, and the sun doesn't shine.
Right.
Coal is reliable.
That's right, that's the intermittency. So,
Yep.
as we talked about at the beginning, all else equal, natural gas power plant, you can turn it up and you can turn it down. If you run a utility, that's a great thing. Wind and solar, harder to do. Now, that said, we are running electricity systems in the U.S. that are 30% wind, and that number keeps going up. We're improving storage, we're improving battery technology, we have pumped hydro, so there are ways to address that problem, but it's a challenge to build an electricity system that uses what are called variable resources, which are wind and solar PV. It's a technical challenge and an economic challenge, no question.
Let's do one more and then we'll let Susie
We
go.
battle to a truce here, almost, yeah.
I've only lived around northwest Colorado for about 40 years. And our economy in the western slope, and more particularly in northwest Colorado, is a very delicate economy. And right at the head of that is coal. It keeps us above water, if you will. And so and I agree, the coal industry is probably going to give way. And what's going to happen to those employees? Those are good employees that make $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. What are you going to do with them? Where do they go? I mean, what's your answer to that?
I don't know the answer to that. That's an economic challenge. You look at what's happened in the Midwest when they had a lot of really good jobs associated with steel and automobile manufacturing. A lot of those jobs went away. There's been a lot of long-term economic pain. And many of those regions have still not recovered. I don't have a solution. I agree it's a problem. I don't know the answer. One proposed answer from gentlemen in back is the government needs to be more active in the transition and retraining folks for different careers, helping folks find jobs. Maybe that'll work.
So you can train them, but how are you going to take a guy that's been a coal miner, underground or above ground, for 30 or 40 years, whatever it is,
Yeah.
making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, and train him to do some other job It's gonna pay them 40 or 45 if they're lucky, because you can't find those jobs.
Those are hard jobs
That's
to
a
find.
transition.
Those are hard jobs. The coal industry, mining jobs were in the past stable jobs, well-paid jobs. They were jobs you didn't have to go off to college. It was kind of on-the-job education. You did that, and you could bring your kids in. I just don't see how that's going to continue.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
that's
not saying it
just-
should or shouldn't. I just
not
not
sure
sure
the
how to
answer
keep
to
that
that.
going.
You can't read the answers to that. In Appalachia, there are entrepreneurial companies that are going in and they are retraining coal miners to do computer programming, computer science, to do coding, because coding is a high-paid career, and that, we can bring that to other places that are suffering from economic change. That's a fact.
You gonna pay them at that rate while they're getting trained?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, change is hard, transitions are difficult, and we're already seeing that.
Yeah, you can read about that, that's a fact.
Thank you, Paul, very much. Paul will be around. Susie's going to give a quick update on some of the local energy efficiency programs that are.
I have a question for you guys. Who believes in the phrase, penny saved is a penny earned? Can I see a show of
Say it
hands?
again.
Penny saved is a penny earned?
Oh, yeah.
No, you guys don't believe it?
Is that today or yesterday?
Okay, a nickel saved is a nickel earned. So just whatever fuel you use, you don't want your bills to be high and you don't want to be wasteful, right?
Right.
I'm a granddaughter of someone who grew up in the Depression, and I can't waste. And I doubt any of you guys can either. So there are some programs that we have that some are free, some are rebates, and some are, they're all on the table over there. And if you want one of these things while I'm talking about it, Sarah can hand you one. So we have 2 rebates from electric and gas side of things. This is the Sensible Energy Program, and one of the easiest things is the LED light bulbs. So if you haven't switched to the new technology in light bulbs, the electric company is paying you to switch up to $100, up to 10 bulbs. And there's 5 different rebates on here, so grab one of these. You should have them on your chair.
Yeah.
So take this home. And then there's also rebates if you have natural gas for your heat. These are on the table over there. And they're as simple of things as if you want to put in a programmable thermostat or you want to do some air sealing. So take advantage of the free money to upgrade your home and make it more energy efficient.
What's that one in your left hand? Is that?
This is natural gas, if you have that.
That's over at the table you say over there.
Yeah, right there.
Thank you.
And so another thing you guys can do is we have a service. If you have both Atmos and YVEA, you can get a free home energy audit. We did about 50 of them last year and 70 the year before. We have 3 auditors in town. They come in and do a full eval of your house, top to bottom, blower door test, infrared pictures. It's very, very interesting. There's probably some people in this room that have had one done. Was it interesting? Did you learn something?
Really interesting.
All right. So these are free if you have both of those services, or half price if you only have one of those utility services. And kicking off announcement tonight, we're kicking off a new rebate program for businesses. This is brand new. It's the same kind of audit, but it's for a business. So if you have any kind of small business that's about 10,000 square feet, we have a new program for that. We have 2 professional auditors in town that can do that. So if you want to know about that, fly over there or come see me. The first 10 businesses that sign up, there's a $200 rebate through Sensible Energy. It's not free, but it's a $200 rebate. Oh my goodness. And then on your chair, you just have some tips. Take this home, read at your leisure. It starts nice and easy, intermediate, advanced. These are no-brainer, low-hanging fruit things you can do at home. And then there's a really great sheet over here that says, top 10 tips for $10 or less that you can do at your home. Last thing I want to tell you about, and then you guys can go and have dinner, is we have 2 programs that we would love for you to help get the word out. It's for income qualified folks who make 80% or less of the area median income. For one person, that's about $44,000. And one of them is called a Jump Start. We've got some local funding on this. You come and you get a free energy audit, you get a free furnace tune-up, and all this quick fixes is about $850 worth of value, and you don't have to have Atlas on this. So if you know someone with propane or wood or whatever, come see me, we'll get you signed up. Friend, relative. And then this is a program that's worth about $4,300. We did 12 homes last year, and it's an energy audit. Could even get you a new Energy Star refrigerator, insulation, air sealing. So if you know any low-income folks that are in a drafty home, it's I would say medium income. It's also $44,000 before taxes, one person. So if you have mom, dad, and 2 kids, you can make up to $63,000 before taxes. So that's pretty medium income, right?
And just for the CARE program is all of YBPA territory, so Ralph and Monmouth County, bags. For the Jump Start, we only have funding right now for Ralph County. So just to be aware of that.
So I want to thank Paul again for coming. That was great.
Didn't seem to care, really.
What, you know, when you're talking about this job school, what do they do when they're Oak Creek or Milton? You know, how many mines did they close between Steve and technology, when they went away from the steam engine, those mines closed. What's your solution? But it's, nothing stays the same, and just the way you are, you're gonna get lost.
But getting rid of all coal-fired is a sin. It's a sin because of the fact that we've got more of that than anything else. And if this country exists for another 100 or 200 years, we're going to need it. Look at our
we're changing the climate. You know, whether you want to believe it or not, are we changing it or is it
that's nobody knows, Jack. No, they don't.
I thought it was an interesting.
100 engineers. Most of those guys says, if you don't do something different for this plane, it's going to crash. And 2 of them say, oh no, we can fly this plane for, 100 years.
Let me give you another example, please. I listened to yours, and I know your argument. If I said to you, I'm the government, I'm the United States government, and I said to you, you are an astrophysicist and you're a climatologist, and I want you to, and you're 20 people to go do this study. Oh, and by the way, here's how I want the study to come out. If you don't believe that, you are living in a dream world. What about several years ago when it was blown out, all those emails where when they had temperature data that was reported, and they said, well, we're not going to report this because it doesn't meet what we need to report. You remember that? Bullshit, come on. It's political. It is not scientific. He said that they are changing to convert. No. He said that they're changing and converting to natural gas. Natural gas is $12 a million. what's going to happen to the price of come on, man. The price of electricity is going to go up, and they don't have a bunch of rich folks. And it's already going up. Natural gas, I remember riding with my grandfather, really old, when I was about 9 or 10 years old, out in Kansas. He was buying it for 19 cents. So, yeah, I know.
But just to turn around and walk away, what I would say is adaptation. Remember that first thing when I prayed, that is what we hold. I mean, they're in North Carolina, no, there's an entire branch, they go away. It's insane. And then they see
Ray Dawson.
we would still.
Oh, really? Yeah, that wasn't my intention. That it was more like that's why it was just implementing everywhere, and it was
And by the way, one of the reasons I didn't do it because of politics. I did it because of economic sense. I was just going to totally agree with you.